In this episode of Mind Pump, look, we talk all about fitness, health, building muscle, burning body fat, improving your sex life, but we also talked about current events and our own lives. The first 35 minutes of this episode was the introductory portion where we talk about those things. Here's what we talked about. We started out by talking about Glow, the new supplement from Organifi to improve the look of your skin. Our employee, Rachel, loves it. Then we talked about Adam's new messy house. It's got kid stuff all over the place. Can't get a handle on it.
Welcome to the club.
We talked about heartbreaking moments with kids that makes things that make us cry that have to do with our children.
We're so sensitive.
We talked about the study done on the UK. Apparently, there's a lot of inbreeding going on there for a little while.
Why'd you look at me like that?
That sucks. Yeah. Justin talked about how his son is using tactics to not go to sleep. Smart kid.
Yep.
I talked about studies on how vegan diets are causing certain nutrient deficiencies like choline, and how taking certain vitamins can be risky, and why scientists say the best way to get your nutrients is from real food. We talked about the show Diagnosis on Netflix, and then I brought up a new study comparing regular soda to artificially sweetened soda. By the way, our sponsor Organifi, the makers of Glow, we have a discount with them. All you got to do is go to Organifi.com/mindpump, use the code mindpump for 20% off. Then we got into the questions. The first fitness question, this person wants to know, what are some good tips to improve their deadlifts? So we talk all about how to get stronger with your deadlifts and how to maximize the effects of the deadlift. Next question, does practicing a healthy lifestyle improve your sex life? Hell yeah, it does.
Oh, yeah.
Next question, are diet breaks necessary, or is long-term consistency better for getting your body to change? And the final question, what are some of the most awkward moments we've had with clients? I think mine wins. That was probably the most embarrassing one of all.
I'll give you that.
Also, this month, MAPS Starter is 50% off. Now, MAPS Starter is a program designed for people to get started with resistance training. If you want to reap all the benefits of working out with resistance, building muscle, speeding up your metabolism, sculpting your body, MAPS Starter is the perfect program for you. Or if you're someone that likes to work out at home with minimal equipment, this program uses just dumbbells and a physio ball. It's also a phenomenal tool for trainers, so personal trainers. For your beginner clients, this is a great tool for you to help your clients get to their goals. So this program, 50% off. Here's how you get the discount. Go to mapsstarter.com. That's MAPSSTARTER.com and use the code STARTER50. That's STARTER50. No space for the discount. Speaking of Rachel, she destroys the Organifi Glow drink.
I know. I've seen her drinking it like crazy.
She keeps it in the little fridge.
I haven't had it yet.
She's the only one. Really,
well,
that's taking advantage of that.
It's in the pink bottle. I think it's marketed to women. Have you guys tasted it?
No.
It actually tastes pretty good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's designed for skin to give you that's why it's called Glow, right? It's for your skin. So she's been drinking it like crazy, and I told her when we first got it, I said, test this out. Let us know what you think. What do you guys think of her skin?
Well, she looks beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's working.
Glowing. I mean,
have you asked
living
her
up to the name?
She loves it.
Oh, she does.
Yes, she loves it. She has it every day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
No, I know she's had like skin stuff, so I know she's had to see a dermatologist and stuff. You were helping her with her diet, with her gut and stuff early on, weren't you?
Yep, to try to help with what some of her issues were, but she's been drinking that on top of it now for at least a couple months. I want to say a month or two.
So
she likes it.
What is it in it that's supposed to be?
There are Ayurvedic herbs inside the formulation, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not familiar with them at all. I've done a little bit of reading on them.
This is why we hand that product off to someone else to test with.
The pink in the name to me, I was like, I'm going to pass.
If Sal doesn't know what's in it for sure, then we'll give it to one of the employees.
Yeah.
Let's have them tested for a while.
No, I did. I looked up I have a screenshot because I looked up when we first got the order in, I did my own research. I just wasn't I wasn't super privy on it to begin with. And usually I know I'll know.
That's why we avoided talking about it on the show, because we were like, okay, we don't know enough on it to be promoting it.
Exactly. So there's something called camu that's in there that's supposed to be good for the skin. Tremelia is also supposed to be really good for the skin. And then there's things like rosehip in there, which is high in vitamin C and collagen, which if you're deficient or your protein intake is low, collagen can help with connective tissue. Mm-hmm. But I think it's the other compounds in there that
Are the most valuable.
Yeah, the most valuable, and she likes it. She really loves it. I just walked in and she had the little clear glass shaker cup or whatever thing that she uses.
It looks like a pink lemonade. What is it?
It's pink. Yeah, it's a pinkish color.
Yeah, what does it taste like? It's lemonade?
Yep, kind of like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. It's got like a fruity flavor to it.
All right.
Anyway,
Hey.
they do a good job. I mean, every time they come out with a new product.
Yeah. You see our boy Andrew uploaded the new gifts.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Justin's rainbow ones.
Yes.
I'm going to be using that like crazy.
Dude, it's so good.
Yeah, the one where I'm doing the Italian.
Yeah, the hands, what do you call it? It's like crab claws, kind of just,
Hey, what the fuck? I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Yeah.
Dude,
Adam,
Adam,
like a name.
Adam, you were complaining about your home.
Oh, God. You're going to put me on blast on
You
the
said
podcast?
it looked like kids shit everywhere.
Yeah, and everybody told me this is dad life.
The new norm, dude.
Dad life, dude. You know what? I tell you what, for all my young guys that are listening still, wait. As long as you can. Wait.
Remember how shit he was talking a week in?
Oh, yeah.
Justin?
Oh, man. It was real confidence.
The audience, he would show up to work. It was a week after.
Fuck you. I submitted. I already submitted to that, all right? All right. Fuck you.
We got him to admit it. Yeah,
Yes,
it's on
I
record.
100% submitted to that. I was an asshole for saying some shit like that. I already admitted to that. That it's the real deal, dude. Fatherhood's the real deal.
And now your AC is busted, so you're still downstairs, and you have no AC.
Yeah, last weekend we were up at Sanctuary, our spot up in Mountain Monterey, and we got a phone call from her brother who was watching. We always have someone stay and watch the dogs or whatever, and he's like, "I don't think your guys' AC is working." And I was like, "Oh God!" And we have this heat wave coming through right now. San Jose is like never really hot. All of a sudden,
it's like 91.
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck? So anyways, we get home, call, and of course, because it's Labor Day weekend and stuff like that, we couldn't even get anybody out till the next day. Next day they come out and they go, and I'm hoping it's like a fan belt, or some shit. Like I can't fix it myself, right? So I'm guessing.
Do they have fan belts?
Yeah, and flux capacitors.
I just think
widgets.
I hope it just a spark plug went out. We'll replace that.
I don't fucking
I'm pretty sure it's the grommet.
Hoping it ran out of gas or something. Hoping someone just has to refill it or some shit.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I'm taking educated guesses like that, hoping to God that they can fix it. So anyways, it's not the flux capacitor or the belt. It's fucking broken. We need a whole new one.
Wow.
Yeah. So we and that's gonna take another week.
How
or
are you
two.
sleeping now?
Like shit.
So do you just open the windows,
Do you get
fan?
like 10 fans surrounding you or what?
So I'm all the way on the. So we have
Because people need to know this. Adam likes to sleep like he needs to be cold.
He's another Arctic bear. Like
Yeah.
Very, very cold.
Yeah.
Not just nice.
Yeah,
It
no,
can't
no.
be 72 like everybody else or 70. It needs to be like 50.
people come over my house in the summer,
Wear a
and-
jacket.
and they do, and they're cold. They're like, "Fuck, it's cold in here." Like that's how I like it, which is probably why we blew the fucker up.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I'm all the way at the very bottom floor of our house, which it's at least that stays, especially right now, a good 10 degrees, maybe more, cooler than the top of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So Katrina and Maximus are on the top floor and are loving the tropical feel of the house right now. I can't stand it. So I'm all the way at the bottom, and then we have a bunch of windows on the bottom floor. So it actually cools off by nighttime. So by 2 a.m, and I don't go to bed now till like my shift to kind of help Katrina out to give her some relief. I try and give her from about 10 to midnight or 1, give or take. That time to like sleep right before she's going to go into because there's a good chance she's up 2 or 3 times through the night, and so if I can give her a good little power nap before she goes, so that's kind of our system right now. But I mean that leaves me from like last night 12:30 and up. I'm normally up by about 6:30 or so, and hoping that I have a perfect night's sleep, which I don't. Absolutely I don't. And right now too, my dogs are so. We don't normally have the windows open. We normally keep the windows closed and the AC running, so it keeps the house quiet and you can't hear like people walking by or cars. And my dogs are so protective that anytime somebody walks by the front of the house, they go crazy. So at least once a night right now when I'm in a deep sleep,
Your dog.
Are they downstairs with you or upstairs with Katrina?
they hover. They hover wherever they're cool and comfortable. So it's pretty hot upstairs. So sometimes they'll come hang out with me.
They always stay together.
Yeah.
Uh.
Yeah, they typically stay together. Although there's this funny pattern, like, so Bentley has a bedtime at 9 o'clock. It's just like clockwork. It doesn't matter what's going on in the house. at 9 p.m., he leaves everybody and goes upstairs and gets and I think the reason why this is because the two of them fight all the time like fucking brothers. And we've kept one dog bed out because we used to have 2 dog beds.
He claims it that way.
Yes. And so he gets up there early to make sure he claims it. I totally think that's what it is.
That's old wisdom.
It is. No, it is. It's the older dog. And he's just like, he heads up there and claims his spot and then gets in the bed and gets all comfortable. So he'll normally go up there. Mozzie stays downstairs and then would normally go up after we go up. But since I've been sleeping downstairs, sometimes he stays down there with me for a little while.
Yeah, it was good seeing your boy the other day when Katrina brought it. His cheeks are filling out.
Yeah, we just did his. Oh man, bro, can I tell you something? I was not ready for this. I was not ready for this at all.
I tried warning you.
Everybody did. I didn't think it was a big deal. So had his first shot. Broke my fucking heart.
Oh,
I told you. I told you.
Let me
tell you.
That's right. I remember that.
Let me tell you what broke my heart about it. What I wasn't prepared about, because it's not like, okay, he's 8 weeks old, so it's not like I'm not used to crying. I've heard plenty of it. He cries all the time, right? It's part of the deal.
I know what you're going to say right now, but I want to hear you say it.
And
it's a different cry.
He got the shot, and it's a cry I've never heard. Yeah. And that fucking just like, whoa, I was just like, I was like angry. You know what I'm saying? I was so angry about it.
You want to fight someone.
I did, dude. Poor nurse. You know what I'm saying? Like, it gets me even choked up just talking about it. It's so crazy. Because he like looks at me.
Because he's trusting you.
Yes.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
He cried different, and he looked at me like I did it. You know? Man, that just crippled me, bro.
Dude, that happened to... I remember, with my oldest, and the nurse was trying to put in an IV and couldn't get it. And so Courtney's like a wizard. She was in pediatrics, and they would always call her actually to other units to come help, especially with kids, to be able to start the IV, because it was just like her thing. And so she's sitting there watching a nurse like fumble around and not get it with our kid, and she's like, yeah, she lost it. She's like, I'm gonna do it, and then did it first try. And I was like, oh, you're a champion, because that was just heart-wrenching.
Dude, the two most hard things that I've ever had to do, besides like major things like when my kid got hurt or something like that, was when they got shots. And what it is because your kid is looking at you, trusting you.
It was the look of
like,
the cry.
Hey, Dad, I love you. And then boom, and then like, you betrayed me.
Yeah.
My
I thought
father.
you were looking out for me.
Yeah, and it breaks your heart. The second one was, and you get better with the second kid because you get used to this, but when my son, when I brought him to school for the first time, and he didn't want to stay by himself. And I was building it up the whole time, building it up like you're going to be, it's good to be brave and you're going to have a good time. So we get there and he knew what was about to happen. He knew like I'm going to get dropped off. So I bring him there and he's holding my hand and he doesn't want to let go. And so I'm like, okay. And I'm waiting to the last minute. And finally the teacher's like, all right, parents, you have to go. And he wouldn't let go of my hand, and I had to peel his little hand off. I had to peel his little hand off mine, and then the teacher held him, and he was like reaching for me like this, and the look on his face was like, "Don't abandon me." and I fucking turned around and I walked out, and I'm walking and I'm crying as I'm walking through the school, and every parent who has a kid that's in older grades knew right away. They looked at me and they knew
first timer,
first day, and I'm like, wow, that was terrible. That was terrible.
I was not ready.
A guy handed me a flask. Jesus, it's brutal.
I wasn't ready for it at all. I know people had said stuff like, oh, it's tough when he does that, but I feel like, oh, it's just because it hurts. I'm like, whatever. But man, it's exactly that. It's the sound of the cry and the look that I got right afterwards.
He forgot about it already. Don't worry about it.
Thank God.
You don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I'm good today, but I mean, even just telling the story again, it makes me relive the moment. I'm like, oh shit, it got me.
So the whole thing that like my mom used to tell me, this hurts me more than it hurts you. And she would like, hit me with the wooden spoon.
You're like, you're a liar.
Liar. Yeah. She was telling the truth. It probably did.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. She hit me pretty hard with that thing. Anyway, dude, a funny study came out not that long ago. So Justin's gonna crack up on this one.
Okay, yeah, lay it on me.
No, you're gonna love this one. So, study came out from the UK that apparently, let me pull this up here, thousands in the UK, because they did a big genetic study, and apparently,
where Justin's from,
apparently, thousands in the UK,
all over.
like a large percentage, apparently more than other places, were born as the result of extreme inbreeding.
Great. That explains a lot.
No, no, they're saying that there's like
because of the royal line and all that. I mean, they were all inbreeding.
Yeah, dude,
forever.
they're saying like thousands of people were the result of first degree and second degree relatives.
Isn't that the case with like
that's
any,
like parent
any
and child.
Island? You know, like any island community. They have to
Probably.
have, yeah, because I mean, you only have so many options.
How long was that prevalent for? Like
Hey
how
there,
long
cousin.
how long did they think that was a good idea to try and stay within the family?
Well, that was a common belief for royalty. I don't know how long that lasted or where it was the worst. I know it was a thing in the UK, but also consider, like Justin said, it's an island. So you're surrounded by all these people.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, there's my cousin. She's at least not my sister, so we're gonna have kids. I mean, seriously, that's
in the family,
That's
man.
what it was like for a long time.
That's funny. It kind of reminds me. Well, this isn't inbreeding, but it's just love. It's family love.
You have an inbreeding story?
No. My son, it was funny. It was just really funny. So there's lots of tactics that they use to get out of like going, downstairs and going to sleep. If they want to stay up, they want to.
Your boys.
My boys. And so they pull all these different things like, oh, I'm hungry or I'm this and that, whatever, like different tactics. So my youngest pulled a new tactic on me, which it threw me for a loop for a minute there. So he starts like giving Courtney a hug and all this, giving her a kiss. And then I'm like, all right, come on, let's brush teeth. Let's go to bed. I'm like that old drum that keeps beating the same thing. And he's just like, gives Courtney a kiss, looks over. I'm like, come on. And then he looks at me, gives me a funny look at his face. Then he goes back in for another kiss. And I'm like, okay, all right, great. Yeah, you got mom. Okay, cool. Let's go. Another kiss, longer kiss, like a really long kiss. I'm like, okay, okay, dude. Let this get weird. I don't know how to okay, you win. You win tonight. I'm like, I don't know what to do about that.
Time to go to bed.
It was so funny though. Like, he knew like he could press my buttons.
The tactics that kids use when they're really young are funny. Like my daughter will do this thing where I'll be like, how was your lunch? Did you eat your lunch? She's like, man, my stomach has been hurting all day. You know what I mean? I started figuring this out. She's like, yeah, my stomach was hurting, so I couldn't eat, the tomatoes and like the healthy stuff, I gave her.
Yeah.
But like, wow, that sucks because we're going to have tacos tonight. So just don't eat because I don't want your stomach to. And it's so funny. I'll wait.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll wait.
It's like a
feeling
half
better
hour.
now.
She goes, Papa, my stomach feels so much better now.
Because she'll wait a little bit. She thinks by waiting 15 minutes, you know what I mean? So 15 minutes, she'll be like, one time she came up to me, she's like, you want to know what's weird? What's weird? She's like, my stomach's starting to feel better. I think I'm getting a little bit better. Like, shut up. Shut up. You don't get shit.
I caught you. Yeah. We're not having Taco Tuesday.
Yeah. You know what's weird?
No, is because you guys both have two, so is one more mischievous or deceitful like that than the other? Like who's more clever out of the kids?
My daughter.
Both in different ways. Yeah.
Oh, yours are two different?
Both different.
Yeah. No, my daughter, and I saw this early on when she was little. When she came up to me, she must have been 3, maybe. She was tiny. And she's like, Papa, can I have some chocolate? I'm like, I know we don't have chocolate except for the chocolate that I hid that we save for guests, but she doesn't know where that is. I'm like, we don't have any chocolate. She's like, yeah, we do. I'm like, where is it? And she walks over into the hiding space, opens it up. I'm like, did you know that this chocolate was here? She's like, no. Really? Then I look over to the side of the couch. It's like 7 wrappers of chocolate.
So she already did it, then decided.
Dude.
Oh man,
Little shit.
No.
She's definitely more sneaky.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like as far as like mischief goes, like Ethan's more crafty and he'll use it to like get what he wants. Like he'll like for instance, like we only let them play so much video games, and so he knows that in order to get to me, like he has to tell me certain things like, oh, remember, because sometimes he'll get me to play with him and then he'd like start like recounting like, oh, Dad, you made like the most awesome building because he's talking about Minecraft.
You feed your ego?
He's feeding my ego. And he's like,
Dad, you're so smart.
He's like, listen, like, Dad, I learned this new thing and I think it'd look really great in your place. And all like drawing this whole picture for me. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool, bud. Maybe if we get to it, he's like, yeah, I'll just go ahead and turn it on. Like does the assumption close with me. And then, my youngest though, he'll get into the kind of mischief like, when he was younger. I think he was like 4 or whatever, and we're downtown Santa Cruz, and he just like kind of looks at me, laughs, and then pulls his pants down and starts peeing on a tree.
What?
And I'm like, no, you can't do that. You know, like that's not okay. Like we're public.
This is
I have to
downtown?
Yeah. He just
Downtown
like
Santa Cruz?
Yeah,
Fits
just,
right in.
I know he probably fit right in, right? Yeah, like it's a normal thing now.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Dude, so it's funny that we did that vegan episode because there's more and more studies that coming out about veganism, and there were a couple really interesting ones. So there was a paper written in the UK that talked about how if you're going to go vegan, you need to be very careful with damaging your cognitive ability because of the lack of choline that's found in the vegan diet.
More stuff they lack.
And
huh?
choline, well, choline is some scientists make the argument that choline should be considered an essential nutrient. And there are some studies that show that when vegans and vegetarians supplement with choline, that they get a cognitive boost, kind of similar to what
Creatine.
like what you get with creatine. And then there was another paper that came out in Scientific American that talked about the dangers of taking supplements. Now that we're on the of taking nutritional supplements like multivitamins and stuff like that. I'm going to pull it up for you guys because it was kind of interesting. And they were talking about how some of the damages that can happen from like excessive B vitamins. They found like too much vitamin B6 resulted in more bone fractures in women. And they think it's because it competes with receptors that estrogen competes with. So women who were taking too much B6 weren't able to utilize their estrogen as effectively.
Oh, interesting.
Causing more bone fractures. Vitamin A, high doses of beta carotene and vitamin A make lung cancer deadly, far more deadly. And so they were talking in this article about how the ideal way to get your nutrients is what we always talk about, is to get them through food, because when you take them through supplements, the likelihood that you can take too much is far higher. And in other cases, you just don't absorb as much. Like getting your vitamin D levels to go up by eating vitamin D2, which is found in like in plants, like certain mushrooms are high in vitamin D, but it's a form of vitamin D that you'd have to consume a ton of to see any changes in your D levels in your blood, versus D3, which is found in, like, for example, cod liver oil, for example. So,
does the speed of that too make a difference in terms of like digesting it, like from real food versus like encapsulated form?
what do you mean the speed of it?
Like say you basically you take a pill and then like your acid like right away like breaks it down, versus like food will take a little bit longer to break down.
You know what? That's an interesting question. I'm not sure. You know, there are lots of cofactors and other compounds in foods that oftentimes enhance their bioavailability. For example, this is an easy one. This is a simple one, but like vitamin D3, it's better utilized when there's fat present. So like cod liver oil is a fat. It's omega-3 fatty acid.
Yeah.
So when you have it with that, then you absorb better. If you just took pure vitamin D3 without fat, then you probably wouldn't absorb as much. Vitamin C is oftentimes utilized better in the presence of like bioflavonoids that are found in like oranges, for example. Citrus fruits have high bioflavonoid compounds or whatever. Makes the vitamin C much more bioavailable.
But it seems like it's all already been done for us in natural form. And so the further we get away from that, it tends to create problems.
Totally. That's exactly it. It's like, and it's not that the food, I mean, there's two ways you could look at it. I guess you could look at it and think, oh, the food was designed perfectly for us. Or, so that would be like the creationist belief. Or the evolutionary, which is our bodies evolved to
alongside them.
Yeah, intake these nutrients in these forms. Yeah. And so our bodies are better
Either way
suited.
you look at it, it's a good idea.
Either way you look at it, what you don't want to do is you don't want to be in a position where you have to supplement with nutrients.
Yeah.
You want to be in a position where you can have all your nutrients through food. And to be fair, it's difficult regardless. But the point we made in the vegan episode was it's more difficult for a lot of people
very
in that type of
Well, it's
design.
interesting.
Deficiencies.
Don't you think like the evolution of supplements in general came originally to help people with deficiencies, and we've now started to use it more like a luxury or an excuse not to get it from real food?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, vitamin enrichment became a thing when we started having nutritional deficiencies because
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, because of all the fact
Pushing
that
the grains and everything else that's subsidized.
yeah, so they would like put iron in foods or iodine and salt because children were having goiters as a result of low iodine. So when you go buy like Morton salt, you ever notice how it says iodized?
Yeah.
That was like a government push at one point, was because there were iodine deficiencies were so common that they started just putting iodine in salt as a way to give people more iodine. And it worked, but it is quite interesting, right? That we have to do that kind of stuff.
Well, dude, have you guys had a chance to watch that show Diagnosis on Netflix at all?
I want to watch it.
What is that one?
It was super fascinating. So basically, this doctor, this lady, she had always wanted to do this, had wanted to be able to source like problem solving. You ever watch that show House, where he does like he gets these really unique, like impossible ailments that he's trying to figure out and give them the proper diagnosis so they can treat them well. And so this was always a problem amongst doctors, is to try and narrow down like the real legit diagnosis, because sometimes you get like mixed symptoms that like look like something, but it's really not that.
Are they using like crowdsourcing?
Yes. So they're using crowdsourcing now all over the world, not just like, and two, what's good about that is there was this case with this guy who didn't know he had Gulf War syndrome. So the only doctors that really knew what those symptoms looked like and how to even look for that were within the VA. And so he wasn't going through the VA, like trying to find out why he was having all these problems with his brain and why he was developing all this plaque and all this like excess, all these problems that he was experiencing, and like his mood changes and swings. And so put it out there, and you get all these doctors from around the world, and also people who had loved ones and relatives that had similar symptoms and gave their anecdotes. And so, but what's good about it is that this isn't just like, everyday average people sourcing and then trying to like go through and filter. It actually, like this doctor, she actually at the end of the day, like takes all that information in, like narrows it down to like the real solid leads that she thinks are going to be most appropriate to look into. And then like dives deep into that. And then they've been able to solve
I've read about this.
Crazy problems.
I've read about this. So this is crowdsourcing, where they will put information out to massive amounts of people.
Yeah.
And oftentimes solve total mysteries.
I love it, dude. It really it made me emotional, because it's like, it's watching human beings like be like really like I don't know, it's like a really good,
resourceful and helpful,
just like humanitarian kind of an approach to real problems, instead of all this bullshit like politics that we get flooded with.
That reminds me of this test that because it's funny, you ever notice like humans we always want to go with the crowd, and although there's danger in that, you got to ask yourself, well, why do we tend to do that? Like that one study where they'll have a bunch of test people in an elevator, and they'll all be facing, to the left, and someone will walk in and they'll naturally face to the left. Mm-hmm. Or when people are waiting in a waiting room and you have a bunch of test subjects or actors or whatever who all stand up when a bell goes off and then sits down, and before you know it, the people who aren't part of the test or who aren't actors will start to copy them. Yeah. And it's funny that we have that natural inclination to follow the crowd, and you ask yourself, well, why does that exist? And it's because in some cases there's a lot of brilliance in the crowd, and there's this one test that proves it, which is really fascinating.
Don't we have mimicking genes too?
We do, and we're extremely social. But there's this one test that demonstrate this so well. So, and you can try this out. They'll take a jar that, let's say, they fill with like pebbles or jelly beans, and then they'll tell 100 people to guess how many jelly beans are in there. Then if you take everybody's answer,
you average it,
you get remarkably close.
Like very close, within like a couple, like 5 or 10, jelly beans.
Remarkably close. And the more people are a part of it, the closer you tend to get to the actual number, even though, the top, number and the bottom number are way, way off. Mm-hmm. You just add them all up and average them out, and they come out to something really, really close. Yeah. Pretty weird, right?
Yeah, it is weird.
It's really, really crazy. All right, I got another study that came out on artificial sweeteners, or diet sodas, I should say. So I love
You're
this
really building up your case, it seems.
No, they
Lane's going to lose before you.
Sounds like I've been doing research.
No, I'm not. It just came out September 4th. This was in the Washington Post. and they found that artificial sweeteners or diet sodas and regular sodas are both totally connected to early death. And in one study in particular, I got to pull that one up. In one study in particular, the diet sodas were connected to worse outcomes than the sugary sodas were.
You want to know something that I noticed personally, and I know this is just my story, but I've talked openly about Diet Cokes like crazy, and I told you what I did. And this has now been, I'm probably, I don't know, I'd say 6 months or so. In 6 months' time, I think I've had 2 Diet Cokes, maybe 3. And what I've done, and only because it was like I really wanted something like that, and that was kind of like the only choice wherever I was at. Mm-hmm. But what I've done is I replaced that with like sparkling water. So I've been drinking that. Like I just needed something carbonated to kind of get rid of me craving. And at first it took me a while.
Like the nicotine gum version of
right. Literally, it took
I've learned to like sparkling water.
No, it's what I had to do to like kind of wing myself off of the cravings of wanting to have the Diet Coke all the time. So it took me about a solid month before I noticed like, oh, they're completely gone. But I'd still have the occasional like I have sweet tooth where I'd want a Coke or want something, and that's where I told you guys I'd switched over to using the real cane sugar in Hanson's. So I'm drinking like a Hanson's root beer thing that I'm drinking. It's like 130 calories, real cane sugar. What I noticed with it, I can buy a 6-pack of that and it'll last in my like a month in my house. Like I rarely ever have the craving for like the way I was craving Diet Coke. Like Diet Coke's no joke. This is me being very real and honest with people because I think I can't be alone in this. I start drinking them. Like I can go from not having them all. I start drinking them once. And then I want it again the next day, and then I want it again, and then before you know it, I'm having 2 sometimes, and then I'll watch myself get all the way to where it's like I had it at lunch, I had it at dinner, and I'm like, I want them at every meal.
There's 2 reasons for this, I believe.
The coca leaves and the artificial sugar.
No, there's 2 reasons. First off, the study that I read that said that in some of these studies that artificial sweetener or sweetened sodas had worse outcomes. I don't necessarily think it's because of the artificial sweetener. I think it's because of the behaviors that they tend to encourage and make people eat worse food. They're a part of a bad eating lifestyle. And what you're talking about, Adam, I think there's 2 reasons for this. One is artificial sweeteners are far sweeter than sugar, and we know this. They just hit that sweet. Sensation.
They've been engineered to.
They are. They're. I don't know how many times sweeter they are than sugar.
It's a lot. It's like 1,000.
Yeah,
it's
something like that.
Yeah.
So that registers in your brain. There's another piece though. When you drink something with sugar, especially if you're somebody that's health conscious and you have somewhat of a value on your aesthetics. Okay, so you're like, I like enjoying things, but I also like to look good and feel good. Sugary drinks with sugar and calories come with the natural barrier and limitation of calories. So what I mean by that is if you're somebody who's into how you look and you drink a soda, you've consumed 150 calories. That's a natural barrier. That's a natural thing that'll kind of make you stop having more because because it's not coming with, artificially sweetened drinks come with this aura of there's zero side effect. There's zero effects.
That's an interesting theory because I'll pay attention to that more if that's part of what restricts me from wanting another one. For sure, I agree with that's what justifies me going from 1 to 2 to 3.
Yeah, because you're like, there's no calories.
No calories.
Right.
And
so
I want it.
Come with that barrier.
I have a craving for it. I want it. It's no calories. Of course I'm going to have it. It's not even a question.
So when you're trying to train a client to start to change how they enjoy food, the relationship to food, calories serve as a nice little, speed bump. You know what I mean? It's a nice little, hey, you can enjoy it, but then remember you're having lots of sugar and there's lots of calories. But what if they're like, oh, this has no sugar, no calories? Now they can indulge in that behavior over and over again. And that behavior is not isolated to just the soda. That behavior bleeds over into other things. Mm-hmm. And that's why we see when people consume lots of diet sodas, they don't lose any weight. You think that they're replacing sugary drinks, therefore they should lose weight. No, because then they just eat more. It just encourages that type of behavior. It's not part of a healthy lifestyle. And I do think for people like us who are, we're somewhat concerned with how we look, when you remove that barrier, it's like, oh, there's nothing stopping me from having more.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been a really interesting thing for me to pay close attention to because, I remember I've talked about how I'll go on and off. Like I allow myself to have Diet Cokes and then I say, okay, I'm going to wing myself off. No. And then I'll go periods, none at all. But every time and this has just been part of a ongoing cycle for me is that if I'm not drinking them at all, I'm not having any. And then when I decide to have them, it's only a matter of time before it goes from, and I don't go from not having them to one every day. I go from one, and then I say, oh, once occasional, but that occasional turns real quick to one a day, and one a day real quick turns to 2 a day, and 2 a day can real quick turn to 3 a day. And that can happen to me in probably about a 3-month time frame. So within 3 months, I can be having Diet Cokes with every meal all of a sudden in a day. And I notice that, and I do. And I remember in the past, a lot of that is the justification of, oh, it doesn't matter. It's 0 calories. It's, and we know that artificial sweeteners don't kill people, so I'm okay. So no big deal. But I also noticed something too, like, man, fruit is so much better right now. Like, fruit is a million times better when I'm not drinking diet sodas. When I'm drinking diet sodas like crazy, it totally ruins fruit for me.
Let me ask you a question. When you're drinking a lot of diet sodas, does a normal sugary soda start to taste bland?
Yeah, so this is why, the reason why I don't like regular soda, diet soda I like better. Okay, in the first place. And the reason why I hadn't done the real cane sugar in the past is and so I try to do that. Do you remember when Coke still has it? And I'm not a fan of that, which I should try because it's been a while since I've been doing the real cane sugar thing. Coke Zero has a stevia, or excuse me, not Coke Zero.
Oh, the green one?
Yeah, the green Coke,
yeah.
which is half stevia and half real cane sugar. And I just don't, the taste of it I don't really enjoy. But when I left drinking the Diet Cokes this last time, went to doing all the sparkling water, and then when I did decide to reintroduce any sort of a soda, I said, okay, I'm going to reintroduce a real cane sugar soda. I'm not going to try and cut it in half like with the green Coke and just to try and save extra, because that's all it does. By doing the half stevia and half real cane sugar, it's like they're trying to blend the best of both worlds. Get the it's only a 50 calorie
just to
drink.
Bring the calorie amount down.
Yeah, it brings the calories down to 50 calories, but then you're using real cane sugar and stevia, which is a little more all natural versus what Coke Zero is using. But no, I noticed a big difference. I noticed a huge difference in the way fruit tastes, and that's been awesome. And now with the real cane sugar, I can actually enjoy it, but then I don't crave it the same way. Like I said, a 6-pack can last in my refrigerator right now like for an entire month. And even if I'm like cranking them out isn't one a day even. It's just occasionally.
No, it makes it really, really hard to eat a whole natural diet when your taste buds and your perception is so skewed by those types of foods. Then you go try and eat something that's whole and natural, and it's fucking boring.
Yeah.
It's just totally boring, doesn't taste good, you can't really enjoy it. It doesn't help you at all.
The cool part is you can get that back though.
Yes.
And
yes, you can.
And I try and explain that to clients that I would have that don't like fruits and vegetables. And a lot of times the people that don't like fruits and vegetables consume a lot of these products. They consume a lot of the Diet Cokes and fake sugar or sugar infused type things because that's why it's fucked up their palate completely. And I remember the first time when I didn't like really get this didn't come all the way home for me until competing. Because I never ever been that consistent of like eating all whole, like eating really clean for a really long period of time. And boy, man, I remember, and also being in a deficit and being like really feeling what hunger felt like. Like boy, when I was like that, and I all of a sudden this new love for fruits and vegetables came that I just never had before, and it wasn't until even like Doug and you. Where now also I could sit down and like even right now it sounds great just talking about this, like a big old bowl of rapini and butter and oil or something, or a big old Brussels sprout recipe like Doug does all the time. That sounds amazing right now.
First question is from Steve Kellerman. What are your tips for improving deadlifts? Should I be changing the rep range? How often should I increase volume?
It's funny. There was what's his name? Andy Galpin. He did a post. Did you see his post that he did the other day?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see it.
They did a post where they were testing the amount of muscular damage and how much the central nervous system was affected. And I'm not quite sure how they do this test, but they compared the squat and the deadlift.
The squat, yeah.
Now, what would you
age-old test of which one gives you the most?
Yeah, what would you think?
Squat.
Which one would you think is more taxing overall on the body?
Squat. No,
you think so?
No doubt.
So here's what I've always felt and believed, and powerlifters have shared this sentiment as well, is that squats, you can squat more often than you can deadlift. If you deadlift too often, it starts to get bad. Don't do too often, you'll hurt yourself. But you could squat, 5 days a week if you have good form. But the study actually came out the reverse. It said what you say.
Yeah, I would think that.
Yeah.
Just I think there's and deadlifts are a leverage thing. Now the whole body gets worked in both of them, right? There's no way of avoiding that. But because it's a leverage thing versus something crushing you, something crushing you, just and speaking more towards like your core area, your grounding, everything. I think there's so much more that has to be working and is also potentially compromised.
Yeah, it just feels to me like the squat I can distribute that force a little bit more than with the deadlift. The deadlift I'm like really concerned about my back and like making sure that I'm bracing and keeping that all like super connected. But yeah, I would have thought deadlift personally.
Sure. Yeah, well, so let's talk about improving the deadlift. Now, some exercises lend themselves really well to high reps, and other exercises not so much. The deadlift, in my experience, isn't a great high rep exercise. They work really, really well with lower reps. I like doing, and I've loved training clients anywhere between 1 to 8 reps on the deadlift, and I rarely would like to go over than 8 reps. And part of that reason is when your form breaks down on a deadlift, it can get really bad. It's not a safe exercise to do with bad form.
Well, especially when you're working at like 75 to 80% of your load or capacity. Like I don't ever want to be doing like a higher rep. Like I don't want ever to take a deadlift to failure on a 10 to 12 rep deadlift. But I'll absolutely do 10s and 12. I for sure will do that with deadlifts. But
your intensity is pretty low.
We're
right?
way low. It's when I go. This is when I'm working technique or speed.
Yeah.
I love to if I'm gonna do high rep deadlifts, it's a perfect time also for me to switch what I'm focusing on instead of doing 12 reps and really pushing to where that 12th rep is like challenging to where I can almost not do it. I could probably do 20 reps with that weight, but I'm actually working on the speed of it. Or I'll even do like pause. Sometimes you guys ever do this where you pause in middle parts of the
halfway
deadlift.
Up.
Yeah, halfway up and then finish. So
way.
so if I'm gonna do deadlifts for high reps, it's normally to break up my heavy deadlifting if I've been doing that consistently for a long time. And then it's like, okay, let's work on technique or let's work on speed or let's work at parts of the deadlift.
Now, I really like doing 1 day a week of deadlifts where it's relatively heavy and the reps are low and you're focusing on that kind of top end type strength. And then if you're going to deadlift another time during the week, that's when I'll go lighter and focus on maybe like what Adam's talking about.
Exactly the same protocol.
Exactly. Focusing on form, squeeze, tighten your core. Everything's perfect. Deadlifts are also phenomenal with progressive type resistance tools like chains and bands.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, do I love using chains and bands with deadlifts. They just really get me strong and feeling really, really good. The other thing is there's lots of different versions of deadlifts. And although they don't completely carry over, there is some carryover. So if you're stuck at your conventional deadlift for a while, move to a sumo or to a trap bar deadlift. I love trap bar deadlifts. That's one of my favorites.
That's one of my favorites.
It's an easier, safer version, I should say, in terms of risk versus reward than a traditional deadlift. And there's some decent carryover. I was able to pull, and you can pull more weight with a trap bar, but it's good to get a feel of that heavier weight.
And having that neutral grip too. I like that change of pace.
Totally.
There's a place for rack pulls for somebody who's trying to improve their deadlifts too. Like this is where that stuff makes sense to me. Like
I like the deficits better, but yes,
both.
Have you done a lot of rack pulls? I haven't done a whole lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't say I've done a lot, but I've done a lot in my career. It's not something I do a lot of though. It's something that I intermittently will put in there, especially if my goal is to improve deadlifts and I'm increasing the volume. So if I'm increasing the volume of deadlifts, I'm not going to be doing it the exact same way. In other words, I'm not going to have 3 days of deadlifting in the week and they're all going to be heavy loaded 5x5 type of training. Like that's a bad idea. Like
right.
that you're gonna for sure tax yourself, and that's where injury could possibly happen. So maybe one of the days is the heavy load like that. Maybe another day is the high rep and speed work and like what Sal's talking about, and then another day might be rack pulls. Like that, so where it's not as taxing, right? So that's ways that I would incorporate a move like, or deficit deads.
Yeah, in terms of deficit deads, I was going to get back to that because I remember doing that. Especially like the sticking point for me is that first bit, right, of like getting it off the ground was the real slow, grinding part of the lift for me. And so once I started doing more deficit deadlifts, that really did help initiate more force there in the beginning.
See that, and that's another good point why I like rack pulls because I can almost always get it. Like I've been able to pull 600
Right.
off the
So
floor,
yours
but I
was
can't
the
finish
hinge.
it.
But I can't finish it.
I'm like you.
Yeah, so-
it's like once I'll get it off 3 inches off the floor, and then it ain't going anywhere.
No, if I can get it up, then I'm going to finish. It's
Really?
Just, it's
yeah.
that first
See,
part.
and that's a good example of how you would do other work during the week to increase volume to also improve the deadlift is pay attention to that, where your sticking points are on your deadlift, and then incorporate moves like deficit deads or rack pulls to try and help
Now,
that.
here's one of my favorite kind of workouts. I'll give you an example, and I'll use weight so you can kind of see how much I'm scaling the weight up or down based on this particular workout. I love taking, so if I'm going to go do heavy singles, so heavy 1 rep sets with a deadlift, and it's not my max, but it's heavy enough to where it's a workout, I'll work up to about 495 pounds. That's 5 45-pound plates on each side. So here's one of my favorite workouts. I'll take 315. So I'll go down from 5 plates down to 3, and I'll do 2 reps, but I'll do 10 sets. So I'll do 10 sets, 2 reps, 315, really easy, but I'm pulling the weight strong and tight, and as I'm getting deeper and deeper into the workout, and I'm feeling more and more confident and sure, I'll pull faster and harder throughout the workout. And I'm doing 10 sets, and it's not intense. 315 to pull 2 times is not hard, but because I'm doing so many sets, and because I start to work on the speed and power of my pulls, I get a great workout. It takes a long time, but that workout does a great job of boosting my strength and muscle building.
You also-
especially for
Well,
long-
you're building the skill of it too that
Yeah.
way. Which I
Yeah,
love.
you also did something else that's really smart that's important to note. If you're going to increase volume, that's what you do. Is if you're going to end up doing more sets, more reps, you're obviously going to end up getting more volume. So you want to reduce
Totally.
the load, so you're not the intensity isn't that high while you're also increasing. So if you're going to increase volume, you want to decrease the intensity a little bit so you can handle that.
Next question is from Mind Pump Official. Does practicing a healthy lifestyle improve your sex life? If so, how?
Did you pick this one, Adam?
No, this is not me.
This was me. So this one cracks me up because towards the end of my personal training career, I was getting lots of referrals from the clients that I was working with. And towards the end there, a good chunk of my clients were in advanced age. So I would say towards the end there, at least 50 to 60% of my clients were, late 60s and up, many of them in their 70s, which is that's a big percentage of your clients. Usually you'll have maybe one client in that age group, but towards the end there, I had quite a few. And what used to crack me up the most was whenever I would get a new client that was in advanced age, like clockwork, there were a few things that they would always comment on that they noticed that they improved in their bodies.
I'm getting a little randy, Sal.
Yes. One of them was like, oh, I feel a little stronger, or I have more energy. And always, they would always tell me that they were hornier, but in some way, shape, or form. And it usually started like this. They'd come up to me and be like,
Is
I'd be
it
like,
normal?
hey,
How's this conversation go?
oh,
dude?
I'd be like, hey, Susan, how you doing? Hey, Sal. They'd come in, and then we'd start our set or whatever, and then they'd be like, so what kind of effects does weight training have on the body? I'm like, well, build muscle, blah, blah, blah. I do my whole thing. Like, what other kind of effects? And I'd look, and I'd know already, right?
My soldier was at full salute.
Yeah, so I'd look at her and I'd be like, what else are you noticing? Are you noticing like more vigor? And she'd be like, you could say that, and we'd laugh, and then I knew what she was talking about. Or if it was an old man, they'd be straight up about it. And be like, I'm waking up with boners again, Sal. Hey.
It's like, I just started this dance class. I just want to meet people.
No, I mean, does being healthy give you a better sex life? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, remember
It's not just that. It's not just healthy. I mean, there's studies too to show how much what your sex or your testosterone levels decrease when you're above 15% body fat.
Oh, right.
And 15% body fat is you got to be if you're
We're
under.
talking about for a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're under 15% body fat, you're in pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 14% or less. I mean, I think that I carry myself most of the time between 9 and 14 is about where I fluctuate. So you're in pretty good shape if you do that. You got to be training pretty consistent. So somebody who's doing that is already going to naturally increase their testosterone levels. I remember obviously it wasn't that long ago for me when I was telling you guys that like it was just in the dumpster for me.
Oh, when you went off your testosterone.
And I was doing everything from natural testosterone boosters to the infrared, like all these different things. Sal had me on a protocol to try and address it. And I tell you what, and everything did help, dude. I definitely noticed a difference from the infrared. I definitely noticed a difference from the test booster, but nothing felt more significant than heavy lifting. and specifically heavy lifting. I noticed when I was like squatting or deadlifting. Now, what was heavy to me? I was a lot weaker. So heavy to me was almost 50% of what my load is right now. So I wasn't very strong, but challenging my strength like that and pushing those limits in squatting and deadlifting. And when I say that pushing limits, it's not long, intense. Sometimes it would be a 20-minute workout, and I would just do 5 sets of squats, but I would go heavy loaded. The next day after that, I always felt like this boost, and I saw a boost in my sex drive, my mood, my energy, and everything. And then if I missed it or went a few days of not strength training, I would feel it go back down again.
Well, you got to, keep in mind your drive to have sex is one of our most primitive drives. It's one of the, there's like get water, get shelter, get food, and procreate. So it's a very, very, very primitive drive. Now, there's a lot of reasons we have sex, one of which is to procreate, but we have sex for lots and lots of other reasons. But ultimately, the reason why we are driven to have sex is to procreate. And your body will not want you to procreate if you're not healthy. And it makes perfect sense. Evolutionarily speaking, if you're not a healthy person, you're probably not healthy enough to take care of an offspring. If you're a man, you're not healthy enough to hunt and find food, or if you're a woman, you're not going to survive the childbearing process. And so you're going to lose your sex drive. In women, this becomes quite obvious. Their periods become, very erratic. Sometimes they'll lose their period. In men, sex drives goes down quite a bit, and their sperm count goes down. And so you just don't want to have sex because your body's like, you're not healthy enough to procreate. So good health improves and increases your vigor. So physiologically speaking, yes, it puts you in a better place to have better sex. But there's also a psychological component. This is a big one. This is a huge one. When you exercise and you move and you're fit, you feel good and you look good. You know what I mean? Nothing makes you, I don't know about you guys.
You exude that.
Oh.
That confidence comes through again. I think a lot of times people get inside their head too much, and then, that's one of those things. It's just like a downward spiral. You start not thinking you're the best right now. So, it kind of goes back and crawls, back to its home.
Think about it when, you do something really awesome or you're feeling really good about yourself. It makes you more sexual. It makes you, much more of a sexual person. Also, in modern times, a sex killer, absolute killer in modern times is stress and anxiety. Those will destroy anybody's sex drive.
Sex killer.
Yeah. In fact, oftentimes people will think they have like hormone issues or whatever. Then they'll get their hormones checked, and the doctor's like, no, they're normal. And they're like, well, why do I not want to have sex? And it's like, well, are you overwhelmed at home? Is your husband helping you? Or, for a husband, how's work going? Or, how's your relationship with your wife? The stress and anxiety can have a huge negative effect on your sex drive.
Yeah.
And the one thing you can do to improve anxiety and stress that is not pharmaceutical, that is extremely effective, and in some studies, maybe even more effective than pharmaceuticals, is exercise and being healthy. Like if you're healthy and you work out, your stress levels go down, sex drive goes up.
Well, it's funny, and that's why I joke all the time about, like what's happening, in my household and whatnot, and why I'm outside building things and doing all this. It's like the environment plays a major factor, and the stress levels and the things that need to be accomplished, and we're living inside our head too much, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, okay, here we go. And you want to like alleviate all that and get the stress out of there and make those opportunities where I can help, and then we can get outside of that environment, and even just getting outside helps to promote more of that like strong connection that you had.
Absolutely. Having a healthy mind and body makes you want to connect and procreate or just have sex with people. It's one of the most effective things you could do. Anybody, and I'm sure there's a genetic predisposition for sex drive, and then there's lots of things in our lives that kind of affect that. But I like to think of it like almost everything else, that there's this range, and you can be in this real low range, and my low range may be different than someone else's low range, but I can make my range go up just by being healthier, getting good sleep, getting good sunlight, eating good food, lifting weights and exercising. It's going to give me, a better, healthier sex drive. And then in terms of this actual sex that you're having, well, if you're fit and healthy,
you can do some moves.
Yeah. Well, sex is it's a vigorous activity. It really is. You're moving, you're doing things, and being fit and mobile and having good stamina and energy, do you think that'll improve your sex life? I think so.
Next question is from Ms. New Booty. Are diet breaks necessary, or can long-term consistency still get you body composition changes?
Well, we should change. I want to change the question.
Yeah,
a
the
little
question's
bit.
a little confusing.
Well, I'm going to change it a little bit because I think quote unquote diet breaks can definitely be a part of long-term consistency. So I think sometimes people confuse consistency with I eat the same way all the time. Like I'm always eating super structured, super healthy, and that's what's considered consistent. And if I go out on a weekend or have a nice dinner with my, my girlfriend or my boyfriend or go out with my friends, that now I'm breaking that consistency. I don't think that's the case. I think
It's just being flexible.
I think an overall healthy relationship with food looks like that, and it's consistently like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I do enjoy.
You account for that.
That's exactly right. So now that being said, studies do show that when they compare groups of people who are dieting, the groups of people who diet and then include what are called diet breaks, well, they'll eat more food for a week and then go back on the diet or whatever. They do better. They do better both by sticking to the diet more consistently. I think it's psychologically it gives them a break, but there seems to be a physiological benefit as well. And I think it has to do with like how we reverse diet people, where we give them more calories, metabolism speeds up, they start burning more body fat, or at least it helps mitigate the slowdown, the metabolic slowdown that happens from being
Help you
too
synthesize, nutrients better and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, stuff like that. So
Well, I think that she asked too, the long-term consistency for sure gets you the body still. I think the question sometimes people have is, if I'm not on a diet like that, can I still be making changes over time if I'm not tracking and doing all that? And absolutely, it's just going to take longer. That's the thing that I always tell people about when getting into tracking and making moves. It all depends on who I'm speaking to. If I'm talking to someone who asks a question like, Adam, I've got 6 weeks. Can we make the most moves in 6 weeks? What are we going to do? We're going to be on a diet and we're going to track and we're going to be super rigorous about it. If you're somebody who's like, I don't want to do any of those things, but can I still build the physique I want? Yeah, absolutely. Over time, you just keep making better and better choices. And I actually think that's a much healthier approach. The reality is, though, most people are impatient. Most people want both worlds. I get that all the time. Like, Adam, I want to get in the best shape of my life in 6 weeks, but I don't want to follow any diets. Like, what the fuck? What am I? I'm not a magician.
I'm really serious.
No, it's totally. Don't you guys remember getting that? I used to get
all the time.
I used to get
my diet. Yeah, whatever.
yeah, I would get these demands of how fast they want something, but then they had to give me all these rules on what they're not willing to do. It's just like, okay, well, that's going to be tough. We'll see how that works out for you. But no, I think, I'm not tracking right now. I haven't tracked in a long time, actually. I've been just kind of eating and it's very inconsistent. I think the biggest thing that I noticed when I'm not tracking, I have a hard time hitting protein targets, because what always happens is when I do get back to tracking and I just kind of track what I'm doing, I go like, oh shit, I'm under consuming that. But I'm aware of it. So I consciously try and make an effort, and I notice, I can always tell in my strength, I can even tell the way my physique looks when I string 3 or 4 days that are really good, where I know I was like making sure I was getting good 3-4 meals that were 6 to 8 ounces of meat in it. Like I definitely can feel it and see the difference, but then I'll kind of not get that for a week or two. And I kind of don't care if I slide back a little bit, because I'm not trying to make any crazy progress right now. It's not a big deal.
yeah, I mean, in my experience working with people, being on the same kind of caloric intake all the time is not as effective as allowing it to fluctuate here and there, both from a psychological component, but I also think there may be some physiological component. Like I noticed this whether bulking or cutting. Like if I was always eating high calorie all the time, throwing in a couple low calorie days, my body would respond better.
Why wouldn't it be like that? The way the body adapts to everything else is like that.
Of course.
So why wouldn't the metabolism do the same thing?
Yeah, and there's no way we evolved in an environment where we're fucking eating the same thing all the time. I'm pretty sure we had days of high calorie when there was food,
Right.
and lots of days
This
of low
is
calorie.
all new.
Yeah, exactly. So I think your body works better that way. But at the end of the day, whatever works better for you works better for you. So, sometimes people ask this question, and what I'm afraid of is I'll give someone a piece of advice that runs counter to what works better for them, but then they'll stick to it. They'll try and stick to it hard-headedly because, Sal said it or whatever. At the end of the day, if something's working for you and you feel good and you feel like you have a good relationship with food and you're consistent with the same food all the time, and, you heard you should have diet breaks, but you're like, I don't know, this is working great for me. Don't do it. Listen to your body.
Next question is from Elijah RG96. What have been some of your most awkward moments with clients?
Oh no.
I have one that comes to mind
Oh no.
right
this is
away.
gonna be fun.
Right away, the first one that comes to mind, and I remember client's name, Mindy Doe. She was one of my favorite long-term clients that I had. Great client. And we had been training. I want to say we'd already been together for a year. We'd been training, I think, already. And she was doing dumbbell chest press or dumbbell flies, one or the other. And I was handing her 10-pound weights. And these were the old 24-hour fitness ones, the rubber ones. So 10 pounds, you guys know, are like really thin.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're really thin and they're light. So a lot of times with clients, I would pinch the outside of the weights until they grab it. And we just missed the handoff. You know, and
Where'd it go?
it bounced off her head.
No.
Yeah. It bounced.
I wish I could say that's never happened to me.
Oh my
That's totally
god,
happened
bro! I
one
was
time.
so fucking embarrassed. Like,
Oh, it's the worst.
you just even though part of it was kind of her fault too. I'm the fucking trainer. Like that should never happen, and never again did I hold the dumbbells like that. I mean,
Yeah.
that
I
forever
think
changed
every
how-
trainer has done that. I've done the same thing.
Really?
Exactly. Holding it
Yeah.
just
Oh,
like
I
this.
feel so much better now about
But
that.
Once though.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
And it was
dude.
5 pounds.
You
yeah.
bounce a dumbbell off of
that's-
someone's head. You only do it one
like
time.
A little bit of a mark too.
Well, you know
It's like,
why?
oh,
She had a
so
big ass
bad.
goose egg from it.
Oh.
So bad.
Oh yeah, no, it was fucking really bad, dude. It was. I mean,
wow.
we had to stop the session. It was like she had to like gather herself. I'm like,
have to get you
oh
checked
my
out.
god, dude. Yeah, and then all like fucking 10 minutes later, this big ass goose
It's
egg.
like, oh, it's fine. I barely even notice it. Yeah.
Well, you know why?
I mean, thank God it was literally like one of my lifer, clients that was just. I mean, she was with me. I
thank
think,
God it wasn't like a first session.
Yes,
Like,
yeah. It was. Thank God it was somebody who literally like already just loved me to death as a trainer. That like got a that she was after I said sorry a million times and everything
Yeah.
like that she wasn't
Yeah.
pissed at me.
Because that's a lawsuit right there.
Oh
man.
yeah, Jesus,
I
dude,
know,
that was
right?
so embarrassing.
And the reason why we grabbed the dumbbells that way, because I used to do the same thing with the light ones, right?
Yeah, you want them to be able to grab the grips.
Because how do you hand a dumbbell to someone?
It's
You
awkward.
can't use the grip because then their hand has to go on the grip.
Right.
So you're trying to figure out how to do it. So you grab it by the belt.
So you got to do,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep, I did
Or
the
just
same-
do them one individually
Yeah.
each, so you got 2 hands.
Well, okay, so
Better
I
idea.
I know I've told the story on an old podcast, but it's been at least 800 episodes, so I'll tell us the story again because it's still telling it makes me embarrassed. You know what I'm saying? Like as I'm
the
thinking about
t-shirt
this,
lady?
No, this is the
Oh.
worst. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me with a client. So I was training my client, my older client, who's I don't know, she was I want to say 71. And she comes in, hi Sal, oh my God, give me a hug, great, and I see whatever she's
This is
doing.
the anatomy app.
She's doing her stretches or whatever.
Oh, I forgot
And
about this.
She was like, my shoulder hurt. My shoulder's hurting a little bit because yesterday I don't remember what she was doing. She was reaching for something. She said it kind of hurt. So I took her off the treadmill. I'm looking at her shoulder and I'm like, oh, okay, it's the supraspinatus muscle. She's like, where's that? And I'm like, you know what? I have an anatomy app on my iPad. Let me show you. So I go in my bag and I pull out my iPad because I had just gotten this really cool anatomy app where you can pull up the
I
human
remember
body.
that. It's a badass app.
Oh, it's badass. You could point to a muscle and it'll zero in on the muscle. It'll
Zoom
show you
in,
the
you
action.
spin 'em around.
You could spin
Yeah.
the anatomy figure or whatever. I mean, it was phenomenal. So I'm holding my iPad in front of her, so she's looking at it with me.
Yeah.
And I push the button for the screen to come on and you enter the passcode. Enter into the passcode, porn. Porn comes up on the screen.
Pornhub right away.
And it was bad, dude, because
Bro, what are you doing?
it
Jerking
was
off at work?
It was
That's what I want to know. I didn't ask that the last time you told
Hey.
this story.
I own
That's
the
a good
place.
point.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, where
That's
you?
a good
It's mine,
point,
right?
Adam.
It was my gym. I owned it.
I never thought to ask you that the first time. And then it's just like, wait a second.
well,
This is yet
I
work.
have my phone, but this screen's bigger.
It's an iPad. I had just gotten the iPad. I mean, first time you get it, you're like, "This is a big screen." But it was it was bad because it was the porn, the kind of porn you finish with. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh God.
You know what I mean, right? Like
Oh.
when you start your session,
man.
there's you start with the easy shit, but the
Right.
stuff you finish with is the stuff that
you
you're
rewind.
you're
to certain
embarrassed
stuff.
you're ashamed of. You know what I mean? That's like 20 minutes in, and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's the shit that popped up."
Wow.
I'm not even gonna.
She was
So how quick were you to just delete?
Okay, it pops up. So this is how long it was. Pops up, 1001, 1002, change the screen.
Wow, that's
so
way
for a
too
full
long.
2
Way too
seconds,
long.
she saw all kinds of stuff.
Everything.
all kinds of things.
No,
happening.
what was said after? Did you just
Nothing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's one of those times.
We never.
That's so embarrassing. You don't talk about.
We
gone.
both, neither one of us ever mentioned it ever. And I, for a while there, I convinced myself that she didn't see it. I was like, she didn't see it.
Yeah.
She didn't see it.
She was like looking right at
She
it.
saw it. She 100% saw it.
I don't even know if I want to tell this story, only because I feel bad for the person that it happened to. Like, 'cause it was one of my clients, and we were outside training and doing like I liked to get outside the gym sometimes, and so I bring my kettlebells and I bring like some equipment out there, and we do some drills and all that kind of stuff. And so I had her doing some stuff where she was working with the kettlebells, like getting really aggressive with it, and something happened, and I'm pretty sure she shit her pants. Oh, no. And then she just stopped like cold turkey and was like, "I gotta go,"
like
and then just left and didn't come back.
But you don't know what happened.
No, I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm
You
pretty
guys
sure
have
she
had,
shit her pants.
I've had at least 3, maybe 4, and I would think Sal for sure you because you did a lot of advanced stage. I had at least 3 or 4 women piss their pants.
From jumping and
Yes,
yeah,
doing
I've had that happen
jump
too.
boxes, dude. Like jump boxes.
Yeah.
Fucking.
I've learned my lesson with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
dude.
like,
I had
after they had kids. and-
I had a lady. You guys have heard of the term coregasm? Have you guys heard of this before?
Corgasm?
Coregasm.
No.
Okay,
but
so
I've heard of the orgasmic birth.
Okay.
and that's a myth.
that's
Yeah,
fucking
there's no way.
weird, Justin.
Yeah,
I looked that up,
it's-
by the way. That's
it
really
is
weird.
a video.
I've seen that video.
Okay.
Very,
All
very,
right.
very strange. Can't get that out of my head.
Anyways,
Coregasm, there are certain exercises that some women can do where they're activating certain muscles, and while they're straining, it gives them this feeling like they're about to orgasm, like they're going to have an orgasm. And some women will actually have an orgasm doing this. Look it up. I'm not making this up. So I had a client who, this was in my early days of
is this
personal
the
training.
porn star?
No, this wasn't her. This wasn't her.
'cause That was a different story.
We were doing leg presses, and she stopped halfway through the set, and I'm like, keep going, and then she would.
She's like, okay.
She's like, 1 minute, please.
No, and then she was like,
1 minute.
no, she locked it, and stopped, and I'm like, what happened? And she's like, I'm like, keep going. She's like, okay, and she did it again, 2 or 3 times. She stopped it, and finally she's like, I'm not doing those anymore,
like-
and it was because it was causing that. See, like right there,
Wow.
an exercise-induced orgasm. It's most widely reported to occur during core work, and it was first discussed through anecdotal anecdotes or accounts in 1953.
Yeah.
So this was 5% of women he spoke to. So these were studies done by the Kinsey Institute, the Kinsey scientists. This is like big studies. 5% of them mentioned experiencing orgasm during exercise.
She's like, Sal, I'm doing these at home from now on.
yeah.
Not here.
Yeah, no, she told me afterwards what was happening. This is later on when I was training her for a little while, and I was like, wow. And with that is
Wow,
And
that's
with that-
cool. You're like, cool.
yeah, go to mindpumpfree.com and download our guides. They're all absolutely free. You can also find us all on Instagram. You can find Justin at mindpumpjustin, me at mindpumpsal, and Adam at mindpumpadam.